From Scripps Sports, this is Grizzly Insider, sponsored by Albertson Safeway.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Griz Insider here on the Montana Television Network. Alongside the voice of the Griz, Riley Corcoran, I'm Kyle Hansen, and for the first time since 2009, the Montana Grizzlies are 6-0 after a big homecoming win over the Cal Poly Mustangs. And Riley, what a week it was around the University of Montana homecoming. So much fun, the pageantry, the festivities, everything is just so great. And of course, a big Grizzly football win was the cherry on top for everybody.
Absolutely, well said, Kyle. And I think the theme of homecoming this year, party like it's 1995, extremely fitting. It was a festive mood all week on campus. Grizzly soccer got it started with a big-time win. The pep rally on Friday, always exciting. I think Grizzly football took a little bit, maybe to warm up a bit, but they definitely found their groove. And it's pretty impressive. You mentioned that. First time since 2009. Let's not overlook that because it has been a long road to get back to 6-0 to start the season. Halfway point. It's kind of a good time for all of us to reflect. And pretty good first half. A lot of entertaining wins that we're going to talk about here today.
No doubt about it. Crazy it's been that long, too, when you look at some of the success the program's had recently. So let's talk about that first half, though, because we knew Cal Poly coming into this game was a better Cal Poly team than we've seen in the past. Obviously, they've been a team that there's been some blowouts in the past, really league-wide when they're playing. But Paul Wolf has done a nice job with that team and with that program, and they're trending in the right direction. Nice hot start in Big Sky Conference play with a ranked win over Sacramento State. So we knew this was going to be a good game, and they were going to be a difficult challenge. Ty Diefenbach coming back at quarterback was big, but man, their defense in that first half was great.
It was very impressive, the plan that they came in with. They went in lockdown mode in San Luis Obispo, right? There wasn't much information coming out of there. Well, they go with the quarterback switch, and that defensive game plan, pretty darn impressive, considering what Montana's done on offense to nearly everyone this season, that to shut them out in the first half for the second time since 2021, pretty impressive. And I think Montana needed to get their feet underneath them a little bit more offensively. Cal Poly moving the ball nearly 300 yards of offense, but defensively to really shut down Montana. They took away the inside run. The wide receivers were having a tough time getting separation, and to lead 9-0. I know there were some nervous moments. Homecoming supposed to be that party atmosphere the entire time. But the Grizzlies made everybody hang on the edge of their seats like they've done a couple times this year.
No doubt. Well, and there were moments, too, with the Grizzly offense where, like, they were just about to break through and then just couldn't quite do it. You look at that interception in the second quarter from Keali'i Ayat. Little things like that. Running game, as you also mentioned, just couldn't quite get going. Then you turn it to the second half. Completely different game. They shut them out 28-0 in the second half. Go on to get the big win, 28-9. And to me, one of the things that stood out was the pressure that they were getting was starting to affect Ty Diefenbach. And you saw it on that first pick six from Kenzel Lawler because Kellen Dietrich's right there, pick six, and then from there just felt like the defense was relentless, and offensively they started getting going.
Great setup there, and I think that Kenzel Lawler, it's great that you're going to talk with him later on the show because it was fitting for him. He's been a guy that has been thrown into the fire even more in the last couple of weeks, and certainly a fifth-year senior journeyman to have that kind of moment was big. But as far as the Griz, they just needed a spark in any regard, whether it was special teams, offense getting a big play, and it came on defense. And ironically, that was a big key coming into this. Could the Grizzly defense apply some pressure? I know everybody likes looking at that sack total, only 6 through the first 6 games, but the way they were able to get to the quarterback last week against Idaho State, eventually wearing them down, same thing against Cal Poly this week, to where I think the pressure in the front and the game plan that the Grizzly defense was fired up there in the second half. And the numbers, you can't have a more drastic split. I know a tale of two halves doesn't even tell the full story. 19 first downs to 1 in the second half. Cal Poly was waving the white flag there early in the fourth quarter.
And the stat that everybody was looking for and most excited about, that the jerseys live up to the hypes. How about that?
Oh my gosh, those were so clean coming out of the Topol Tunnel. Shout out to Rob Stack, the head of the equipment room down there. He does a great job, but that design, I'm a big fan of Otto the Slobbering Bear. Anytime we can get Otto, and he was out on the field as well, so it was just so cool. 4th time ever that they've worn the copper and gold since, of course, they had it in 1995. Great across the board.
And first time Otto ever got on the helmet, and well deserved because, man, what a fun logo that is. And we got a great show coming up to break down the rest of that Cal Poly game. Riley's going to catch up with head coach Bobby Hauck next, and we'll catch up with Kenzel Lawler after that. Let's go down.
There's more Griz coverage online anytime at montanasports.com. Welcome back to Grizzly Insider, sponsored by Albertson Safeway.
Welcome back into the Griz Insider. Grizzly football delivered a happy homecoming for everyone at the University of Montana. The 28-9 win over Cal Poly. Here to break it all down, head coach Bobby Hauck. And coach, before we get into any of the X's and O's of this game, what was it like to don the copper and gold, come out of the Topol Tunnel, and to see Otto the Slobbering Bear all over the place? That was pretty cool.
Tear in my eye, Riley. It's awesome, man. It looked good. It was fun. I think the guys enjoyed it. I know our fans did. And I think everybody thought that was great, including ESPN Game Day.
Yeah, they certainly did. Some national exposure there. Now, Coach Hauck, 13-1 record on homecoming. Pretty good record there, Coach, and it was not easy.
I'm still mad about the one.
I know, we're still breaking down.
13-1's pretty good.
13-1 is pretty darn good as well. It wasn't easy for your team. Let's go to the first half to start things off a bit. What would you best maybe diagnose for what happened in the first half? Cal Poly obviously came in here with a great plan, but take me through the first half from your eyes.
Well, it's never easy. It's just the way it is. I think the big thing in the first half, our defense was really good throughout the game. They just played really well. We were getting yards, we were creating first downs, but we weren't completing any drives. And frankly, we were finding ways not to finish drives and mess it up a little bit. We kind of got that straightened out, and in the second half it was on. We started clicking on both sides of the ball, and it was good.
A tale of two halves would be an understatement. Just looking at the stats from half number one to half number two, 19 first downs to 1 for Cal Poly in the second half. And I know there's no speech at all that really goes on. It's a lot of X's and O's and breakdown. But when you guys were just diagnosing a bit what needed to turn the tide a bit, X's and O's, offensively, defensively, was kind of the message at halftime?
Keep generating first downs. As you just said, it's a lot of X's and O's. It's not a bunch of rah-rah stuff. It's like get things tweaked the way you need them to start completing drives, get points on the board, some coverage things on defense that maybe made a little harder on their quarterback and took away some of the things they were having success with. And just it's those minor adjustments that really make a big difference.
And what about the one spark? We're going to have Kenzel Lawler here on the show with Kyle coming up on the Griz Insider. But the pressure, I think you guys got a ton of pressure on the Cal Poly quarterbacks throughout the course of the game, particularly in the second half, and that pressure caused the interception. What kind of spark did that give your team? Because it seemed like from there you guys absolutely settled in once you got 7 on the board.
We gave up the field goal drive at the end of the first half, so we were down 9 rather than 6. And so we were kind of behind the 8 ball a little bit. We moved the ball coming out of the locker room, but had to punt it to score on defense, make it 9-7, and it's just kind of a sigh of relief. Okay, we're back in this thing. Let's go, and we did. We rolled from that point.
Well, and what opened up on the offensive side of things? 21 points in the fourth quarter. It was a barrage. They couldn't stop you in the second half, as we mentioned. Total yards 300 to about 50 in the second half alone. So just take me through offensively what opened up, and patience certainly paid off for the Grizzly offense.
Yeah, we stuck with it. Brent did a good job calling that second half in particular. He stuck with some things. He found some yards in different pockets of their defense. We were able to run the ball. When we could do that, then we were good in third down, and we were in third and shorter, and it just kind of came together a little bit.
It certainly did, and you guys now 6-0 for the first time since 2009, and now we're at the halfway point in the regular season. Hard to believe already that we're halfway through the regular season, but if you take 5 seconds, 10 seconds to just kind of reflect on the first 6 games of the year, and we talked about it in postgame a bit, but maybe the comparison points to 2009 and just how special it is for a group to make it through the first half of the year unbeaten.
Well, it's hard to do. I mean, there aren't very many in the country that are sitting where we are right now. You probably know that number, and I don't. But we operate at such warp speed in any given game week in terms of everything we have to get done to be prepared that you don't get to reflect on exactly where we sit right now. And we're in good shape. We can't be any better. We're hoping to keep improving, play our best football as the season wears on.
Well, Coach, I know you're taking a step outside of Big Sky play here this week with Sacred Heart coming in here.
Yeah, it's an odd deal.
It's an odd deal, but it's also a team that has playoff aspirations. They're coming in here 5-2, and obviously that will create heightened importance for this game. They're looking for an at-large bid to come in here to Washington Grizzly Stadium.
Well, as you mentioned, they're 5-2. They have high hopes for their season as well. They're a team that's going to switch conferences next year. They're going to go into
CAA?
The CAA, excuse me. I almost showed my age and called the A10. They're going in the CAA. And, the more you win, as you just mentioned, we're 6-0 right now and sitting in the top 3 or 4 in the country. These games get big. this game is a big game in our season right now. So we have to move on to the next one. We have to have a great performance this week, both in practice and on Saturday.
Well, Sacred Heart receiving votes in the national poll, and we'll see how they come into Washington Grizzly Stadium on Saturday and if Montana can improve to 7-0. On the other side of the break, Kenzel Lawler will catch up with Kyle Hansen.
Welcome back to Grizzly Insider, sponsored by Albertson Safeway.
Welcome back into the Griz Insider, and we're very excited to be joined by senior cornerback Kenzel Lawler, who scored the first score of the game for the Montana Grizzlies as they rolled in the second half and ultimately beat Cal Poly. So Kenzel, first of all, thank you so much for being here. And I just, we were talking off camera, we're talking after the game yesterday, a pick six like that in the north end zone, wearing the copper and gold. You've had some time to process it now. Just what was that moment like for you?
It was just pure joy and excitement. I was just grateful for the opportunity to be able to get the pick. My D-line, Coach Linehan, Kellen Dietrich, those guys, they work really hard. And, for them to get that pressure and just for me to be in that spot at that right time and just being able to just score the first points of the game, it was just a feeling that I'll always remember for the rest of my life.
When you're going through the play itself, because I know you talk to guys in the past and you kind of black out, right?
Yeah.
Something like that happens. It's kind of crazy. Do you remember much from it? I mean, the ball kind of came right to you, and then of course, you're not a far distance to run to the end zone. What do you remember, if you remember anything, or was it just kind of see ball, get ball, and all of a sudden people are celebrating?
Yeah. So I remember we called a cover 4 concept, and I kind of had the ability to play in between both wide receivers. As soon as I saw the quarterback throw the ball, I just immediately see ball, get ball. Mm-hmm. And then from there, I just saw my guys blocking for me, and I was like, oh, I'm going to score. And then I got into the end zone, and it was crazy.
I was about to say, first time since high school you've scored. I mean, throw you back to those days a little bit as a quarterback, oh, sweet, I've got blockers again.
Yeah, it definitely took me back to my high school days. And it was amazing.
Amazing, huge play, and as we mentioned, what an atmosphere, right, to do that in, and kind of the celebration, as you mentioned after the game too, for the 1995 team. The other thing you were just mentioning off camera that was great was just obviously everybody reaching out to you, right? You think of folks back home in California, friends here, former teammates at Utah. Just what's that been like to kind of see some of those people reach out and congratulate you for that play?
Just being able to have those people reach out to me, it's been great. It means a lot to know that those relationships, have lasted over time, and they've always been supportive of me throughout my journey. They've always, encouraged me to just keep going, Kenzel, keep going. For them to be able to just share this moment with me, it's been huge.
The Grizzlies are now 6-0 for the first time since 2009, and that's a number that kind of shocks people sometimes because there's been success in recent years. So when you guys have the second half you do against Cal Poly, what was that like? Just watching the page turn a little bit, but the team as a unit was so dominant, and then of course you guys get the 6-0 win. Just how was that to get that on homecoming and just get another win for the team this year?
I think it was a huge confidence builder for us as a team. We obviously struggled a little bit in the first half, but I just think that the team that we have, we're always going to come out in the second half, and we're always going to make sure that we're doing everything we possibly can to adjust all the mistakes that were made so that we can have an opportunity just to play our best ball in the second half.
So I want to talk a little bit about your football journey as well, Kenzel. As we mentioned, a high school quarterback, you go to Utah for a few seasons and then come to Montana last year and, really start playing kind of out of the mix. But this year you've been doing a lot, and obviously kind of been leading this group in the cornerback room as a senior. Just walk me through your journey and what it's been like to experience college football, but then it's all led to a big senior year for you.
Yeah, so, just my journey has definitely been one of just, trials and tribulations, just being patient, making sure that I'm ready and prepared for the year that I'm having as of right now. My first 2 seasons at Utah, obviously I was a quarterback, so, I had to develop into a corner getting there, and, they obviously helped me develop, and I was able to, play special teams there. I was able to get my degree there, so I'm grateful for that. Just being able to obviously transition and come here to Montana, Coach Hauck being able to believe in me, Coach McLeod believing in me, and just giving me an opportunity, you know, to get in the mix and, you know, get some more playing time on the defense, and then obviously them giving me the opportunity to come here my senior year and just have the year that I'm having. So it's definitely been a long journey, but, you know, I'm grateful for it. I'm thankful for it, and, you know, I've learned so much over the course of my time.
What has your time as a Grizzly meant to you? You know, it's coming to, you know, kind of a new place, but then seeing the success and obviously now being a senior leader in this group.
Yeah, my time here has been transformative for me, honestly. Like, it was a second chance for me being able to come here and just being able to be immersed into this community, be immersed into just the fandom that comes with, you know, Griz Nation. And, you know, I love this fan base. I love my coaches. I love my teammates, and I'm just excited for us, honestly.
I think they're excited for you as well. So what a play against Cal Poly. Congratulations for that, Kenzel, and thanks so much for joining the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Coming up, Riley will rejoin me as we look ahead to Sacred Heart and the Montana Grizzlies.
Welcome back to Grizzly Insider, sponsored by Albertson Safeway.
Welcome back into the Griz Insider, and great stuff there from Kenzel Lawler and Bobby Hauck as the Grizzlies are 6-0, and now we turn the page to a really interesting opponent, because this has happened a couple times the last couple seasons where there's been this random non-conference game in the middle of the conference play, but Sacred Heart, about as far from here as you can get out on the East Coast, is now going to come to Missoula for the first time these two teams have seen each other, and you know, will be interesting as a 5-2 squad.
I don't know how you get a more unique matchup. We're in the middle of October right now. Montana, you know, on a quest for their 20th Big Sky Conference title, and we're going to take a step out and play a brand new team. The Sacred Heart Pioneers coming in here as an independent, one of just two FCS independents, and they have been able to build a decent resume, a running quarterback. They win close games. They're 5-2 entering this game, Kyle, and you have to look at it from their perspective. This is their one opportunity to maybe prove they can be an at-large bid, so we'll see. I mean, they have found a knack for winning close games. They have 4 of their 5 wins are by 5 points or less. They do have a game against Lehigh, who is ranked in the top 10. They're one of the 8 FCS unbeatens right now. They lost 28-10 in that game. That's probably the closest comparison point that we can get. But at the same time, they're coming out here. We all know the old adage. They'll be fired up to play inside Washington Grizzly Stadium, but unique, a little bit bizarre that this game's happening this week.
Kind of a little speed bump curve, you know what I mean? The only time I've ever been to an SEC game, Auburn played New Mexico State in November, and so I'm like, that's kind of what this feels like, is like the vaunted rival, Sacred Heart, New Mexico State. You know, as we turn the page and look at the Big Sky as a whole, Riley, kind of another wild weekend in the Big Sky, but boy, the last couple of weeks we have circled Northern Colorado, and the Bears finally got it done.
They got it done, and I think that we have been chronicling this on the show. Northern Colorado, Idaho State. Those two teams will beat a ranked team by the end of the year. Well, Northern Colorado had their moment, and I know Joshua Wood didn't play for Idaho, but Joshua Wood doesn't play defense. I think the biggest number in that game, Northern Colorado puts up 49 points in the Kibbie Dome, 35 of them in the first half. Don't look now, Northern Colorado has the 4th best resume in the Big Sky Conference, 4th or 5th when you look at them in Northern Arizona. So wild to think. In Idaho, now their backs are against the wall. They had their bye week. They lose to Montana, of course, the bye week, now losing to Northern Colorado, probably having to win out to make the playoffs. So interesting. We always knew the Big Sky is going to get turned upside down one way or another, and that was the surprising result last week.
When you look at Northern Colorado, too, they are awfully close to being a 5-1 football team, because obviously they got, there's no other way to describe it. They got kind of a raw deal against Colorado State. They should have won that game, and then they had a really close game against South Dakota, who's not quite the team we all thought they were going to be. Still would have been a huge win for the Bears, so shout out to Ed Lamb and his crew for doing a great job there. Now, let's look at the Grizzlies as a whole, because as you mentioned earlier in the show, this is the halfway point of the season. They're 6-0, undefeated for the first time this long since 2009, and it's been a lot of fun to watch. Each game's been different, right? You know, but you've seen the potential of both sides, which is a Big Sky Championship potential team, and that's what stands out to me.
It is, and I think that we've said the it factor, the X factor, this team has it right now. They found different ways to win. What I think is the most exciting aspect of this and the most promising aspect for the coaches, they haven't played a complete game yet. Right. And that's probably scary for the rest of the Big Sky, maybe from the FCS, that Montana hasn't put it all together for 4 quarters. We've seen signs. Defense obviously had their moment against Cal Poly. The offense has been fantastic most of the season. Special teams, they've had their moments too. The Grizzlies, the ceiling's still high for them, and so we'll see as they enter the back half of league play and the back half of their season coming up, how they can continue to improve. They have really cemented themselves, though, of the upper echelon of the FCS.
100%. A couple of ranked wins in there as well as they turn the page to the second half of the regular season with 6 more games in a row, because we don't believe in bye weeks around here. We'll wrap up the Griz Insider after this. Well, as we wrap things up on the Griz Insider, we turn the page to the second half of the regular season for the Montana Grizzlies as they get set for Sacred Heart. So, Riley, what do you got on deck to get the folks ready for the game this weekend?
Well, the Grizzly coaches show up at the Den on Wednesdays. Make sure to come out to that one, or make sure you listen Inside the Den podcast. Another one coming out this week. Still great success going on in the fall sports. Going into the last weekend, soccer, volleyball, football, all in first place. So still some incredible buzz. And as we mentioned, Sacred Heart, they're not going to come in here and lay down. So we'll get you all ready to go for the Pioneers this week.
Going to be a very exciting weekend, no doubt about it, as the Grizzlies are home once again, 6th home game in 7 games. It's been a fun stretch here in Missoula. Of course, kickoff 1 p.m. You can catch Riley on the Grizzly Radio Network, and Script Sports will carry your broadcasts. And of course, we'll be back here next week to break it all down on the Griz Insider. But until then, for Riley, I'm Kyle. Have a great weekend.